All right, folks, welcome back to Slingin Dirt Media, part two. We're going back green flag with Billy Vaughan, small, cool one. He's going to tell us now about you sold all your equipment, you don't have a ride, so you're slowly getting a ride. You drove for the guy out of Clay City.
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Greg Payne.
Greg Payne. Okay.
Yep.
So where does that take you?
Well, I just a lot of guys, after we did the Pierce deal there at Florence for their own stuff, a lot of guys started buying them. So they were coming to me, and Bob set me up as I was doing all their setup stuff in this area. So I think, I drove Greg's car and a couple guys here and there, and I was doing setups, and we were in the infield one night, and somebody asked me, they said, well, when are you going to have your car ready? I said, I'm not building another car. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm not racing for myself anymore. And then they just kind of started out that, well, would you drive my car? I was like, well, yeah. So it
I like
went.
to race.
Jeff and Shelly Burns, I started driving for them, and we did that for a while. And
this was the 44 car.
The 44 car, yeah. And we did that for a while. It was all good there, and then I can't remember. Oh, I'll tell you what it was. So in the middle of that, Arnold Hines, my mom did Arnold's taxes.
Okay.
So actually, my mom called me and says, you need to call Arnold Hines. So I called a couple times, couldn't get a hold of him. He was busy or something.
He needs a tax write-off.
Yeah. Well, they were racing at the time.
Okay.
And I didn't know what he wanted.
Right.
And he was actually, Johnny was driving for him at the time.
Yeah.
And so one night at the racetrack, I just walked up and started talking to Arnold, and he started talking to me about driving for them, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. Johnny's driving.
Yeah.
Well, last thing I want to make mad is Johnny Holt.
Right. This is. Let's clarify. This is
Right.
the boogeyman.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with the boogeyman.
But I think Johnny had other issues. I guess they had something worked out, and then I started driving. I went back to late models.
Back to late model. Yeah.
Driving for Hines, and then that deal went there for a while, and we went through a few cars, and actually they had the Rayburn car, and they had a Masterbuilt, and we went to Pierce and got a new Pierce car.
Okay.
And got doing real well. Arnold was working. We had a lot of engine trouble, and come to find out, make a long story short, Arnold ended up finding out the problem with the engine, and it was a problem with Brodex when they made the block, and that's what the issue ended up being down the road after we blew up. I don't know how many of them.
Right.
So
took a few to figure it out and learn what it was.
Yeah. So then things changed around there with them, and we just I was good. I was like, let's just do something different. I was kind of missing the mod stuff.
Yeah.
And Stan Freeman asked me about setting their cars up, and he was driving for Bill Patterson. And kind of the same deal happened there. They had two cars, and I set the one car up. We went out, and I think we ran second with it. And they wanted me to bring the other car, and we were going on vacation.
Right.
And I said, well, that's fine. Stan drive this car, and when I get back, I'll do the other car. And we did. When I got back, I found out that he didn't drive the car. And I'm like, why not? And they said, well, Bill didn't want us to change anything. He wanted you to drive that car. So we ended up doing Stan's car. and then, Bill asked me to drive the following year. And I said, well, no, I'm not. That's Stan's ride.
Right.
And Stan told me, he said, no, I'm doing something different. He said, no, I'm good. Just drive.
Yeah.
So we did. And
you didn't want to just step on toes and take somebody's ride.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want anybody doing me that way.
Right.
So
it's a common courtesy. I get you.
So we went, we started off there with Bill, and I don't know how many years it was there. And it was just, we had some success, and then we struggled there at the end. And our biggest issue was we weren't doing what the chassis builder was telling us to do. We were trying this, trying that, and we got smarter than our own good.
Yeah,
So,
you're not alone. There's a lot of guys that do that, and I think it's a pretty common mistake that guys get that way.
Yeah.
Especially you get a guy that's successful and this is working, and some guys just get in their head, hey, I can do this and this will work, and the engine or chassis builder saying, no, you need to do this, and you know.
So with that, it kind of along with my son being his senior year in high school, and I was like, I'm not mad. And I told Bill at the beginning, and Bill agreed, and it got to the point Bill was calling me, can you run this race Friday night at Muller? And I'm like, no, we got a game, and we had a TV game that they rescheduled for Saturday night, and I said, Bill, just put somebody in the car. I mean, we weren't running good, so I wanted to see too. Is it me? Right. So put somebody in it, but no, Bill, Sue, and Shirley were great people. Yeah. We had a great time. Again, it's another one of them things. We became great friends out of the deal, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Right. It was all good. So then, I was sitting back, and then Chris called me and was asking, what am I going to do this year? And I said, I don't really know.
I'm going to drink beer or something.
Yeah. And, I still go racing, whatever. Just, I always will. But I'm actually going to retire this year from my work.
Okay.
And, that was kind of another thing. My wife's got a few years before she can retire. Mm-hmm. And we were going to look into, what are we going to do, down the road? I got grandkids now. Right. And, so Chris was like, you want to
answer that?
you want to try and do? He goes, I never really liked the modified deal. He goes, let's do a crate deal. And I'm like, you know what? I'm all about that. Let's go back to just having fun and race. We're not going to race every weekend. Right. We're going to have fun and do what we can. And I know Chris likes boating like I do. So.
Sure. Boating's fun. I like to boat.
Yeah. So
it just unfortunately happens in the racing season.
So, when we can do it, we'll go do that. And but I don't know. Now it's kind of changing around. We're all we'll see how it goes. Right. But everybody's excited, and I got a lot of help coming on board, and a lot of buddies of mine that, helped me back in the past. Tony Brewer Auto Body. He's he don't really know it yet, but he's going to be my full-blown crew chief this year. So
there you go, trucker, stepping up.
So and it's just guys that I think it's just going to be back to having fun again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
I like we talked about. When you make a change, and I feel like when you go into it positive and excited, how can you fail? You know, right. It's you're setting yourself up for having fun and having excitement. You've got new life again.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to do something different.
Yeah.
We'll do this for a couple of years, see what happens, and like I said, getting closer to retirement for
the next stage.
Yeah. Moving south. It's warm all the time.
Yeah. You know what? Please don't say it. My wife hears that. She would if I called her right now and said, hey, we're going, just meet me there, and she like, cool. Yeah. She would just send it or don't send it, whatever. Start over. I'm like, I do not want to do that. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the Jeff Burns. There's a funny story. That the funny thing is that when we were talking about the Pierce cars and a little bit of consistency there, you guys had so much success in that. So I'm going to say this may have been around 2011-ish, I think, when you were still driving for Jeff.
Yeah, probably.
So Jeff was helping me out a little bit, and I was putting a car back together. I tore one up, junked one, whatever. So I was building another car. And, Danny McGee had an old Pierce car. He bought it at the I think one of the Bradwick auctions over in Lawrenceburg.
Okay.
So he bought this thing, and it set for a while. When I tore my car up, Danny said, hey, I promised this old car to the boys. They don't want anything to do with it. He said, I'd like for you to have it, help you out, get you back in. I'm like, well, okay, it depends. What do you want for it? And he says, let me see what I paid for it. Anyway, long story short, he paid $350. He said, you give me $350 for it, it's yours. I'm like, okay. So we went and looked at it, and this thing, we had to dig it out of the weeds. There's weeds growing up through it all over. The weeds are as tall as the car. It had been sitting for a while. So I'm like, crap. So we take this thing home. It was obviously better than the one that I had wadded up. So took it to Gary Engel, talked me into it. He said, man, you need to take it to Dave Chamberlain's. Let them check it out. So I'm like, all right. He said, he'll treat you good. I'm like, okay, I didn't have budget. So take it to Chamberlain straightened it out. He said, didn't need clipped or anything, but I replaced the frame rail. You're fine. He said, it's as straight as anything Bob's producing off the line now. I'm like, he said, it'd be a real good beginner car. Okay. So we looked at it and everything, and, now that we can see and we know what we got, it was chassis number 12. It was one of the first. I mean, this is a little square tube car,
right,
you know.
Right.
I think about the time I started putting it together, I think you actually called me and says, hey, you know, I got a friend of mine, Jerry Rice. He's wanting to put his boy Josh in a car. You gonna build that thing or what? I'm like, man, I just started putting this thing together. Yeah, I kind of did. And that would have been cool to, you know, say that I sold him a car. But anyway, I ended up putting this car together. So Jeff, here's where Jeff ties into it. Jeff says, bring that thing over. He says, I'll help you. We'll get you set up and everything. So we set it up in his little 2-car garage shop right there on their house. And as the 2 cars are sitting there, and yours is like it was brand new, whatever, 2010, 11, whatever it was, and mine was like 10 years older. Man, these things were identical. I mean, when you looked across the rear ends and you looked straight across the cars, the bar angles, everything was identical. And I'm like, man, it's just wild that something that, you know, it's that far apart is they're so close together at the same time, you know. I did okay in the thing, you know. I mean, again, you're not one of those budget guys that can afford to run up front, but I tried, you know, had fun doing it anyway.
I like the old square tube cars. I still tell Bob that today. Yeah. I think they were the fastest cars he had.
Yeah. So that's what you were telling me back then when I was putting this thing together. It's like, man, if you want to get rid of it, I'm like, I really don't. I need all the help and advantage I can get.
They might not have been so good, you know, out there, out west in them bull rings and stuff, but at Florence, that square tube car worked on it, especially in the dry slick stuff.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it, had a lot of fun with it, and I think it got tore up. Something got bent somewhere along the way. We couldn't figure it out. It was just it was a handful.
Yep.
It started out great and loved it for a year or two. Actually, yeah. Then all of a sudden I couldn't get this thing to handle for nothing. So I think we decided to actually bought a car from Corey Skipton. Okay. He had a Pierce car, and it was like a 2011 car. Yep. Now we're getting closer to like 2014-ish. It was a couple years old, but it was newer than what I had.
Right.
So now the guy who was helping me was Jeff Ward. Jeff lived down off of Rowell Road. Had a shop up there, a little bigger place, had a 2-post lift and everything. So he's helping me now. So we take that old car and that new car, and we set them in the shop. We unbolt everything off of one car, put it right on the other car, the newer car, that are 10 years apart or whatever they are. In 1 week, that car was turnkey ready to go. I mean, here it lined up. It was so close to being the exact same car. The rivets, the body panel even lined up. And I'm like, that just don't happen. I mean, it was so identical. And man, that thing was like, oh my God, this is, I've been missing this. This is one-handed driving here, you know. So Pierce definitely, he's got a good product to put some good stuff out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I still think, you know, the modified stuff. Well, I really liked the Diamond car, drove well, but Pierce's cars were just they just fit me. They were great.
Back to the driving style. We've talked about in a couple different episodes with guys about what fits your driving style. You know, me and Austin was talking about, you know, some guys are very comfortable with that rocket style car, you know, up against the cushion and stuff. And some guys are a little more on a bottom feeder type, you know, something that they can move around a little bit, you know, and you know, you got to find what fits your style. And, you know, Pierce's cars obviously fit your style, and you had good support, so that obviously didn't hurt anything.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, there was, and you know, back then in Florence, it was to me that was the best racing in Florence. You had the top, the bottom. It all came in, and it worked. Now, you didn't have the cushion like you got now.
Yeah, it was a little different track. The track was a little different.
Yeah, you were
same track, but it was obviously the surface.
You were actually scraping the wall up there. I know many a nights Jerry Rice would win the late models, I'd win the modifieds, and we were usually both up on the wall or slammed on the bottom, one of the two, you know. So but I would like to see it get back to better, you know. To me, it's better racing. I listen to some of your podcasts here, and you know these younger guys. It's kind of comical listening to them.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing against that, but you watch some of these races. You go to Eldor or whatever, and the big late model races. You're not going to go up there 100 laps and beat off the wall. No, I mean it's great for the fans.
I don't think any equipment's going to last that long. No. I've seen Bobby Pierce try to make them last that long. It's tough.
So. You know, there's a few. Josh Rice has definitely got Florence mastered. He's one that can do it if it can be done.
If it can, yeah.
But
he was a couple laps short last year.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, but you when you get out and travel and run all these races, you're not going to have that heavy cushion up there.
Right.
And it's, you know, that I would like to see that more of the. And I'm not saying to me it's train racing. If it's on the top or the bottom, I get it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of racetracks that's been where you could run, bottom, middle, top, and good racing. Ed Honchill was one of my hardest competitors, and I'll never forget. I was there for a while. I was stuck to that bottom. I was going to the bottom. And Ed, I'd try and pass him. He was the hardest guy. And I'd be going down the back street, and he's looking at me. He'd see me every time. And I finally just, I'm like, I'm going the high side. And I passed him, through the middle.
Yep.
And then when I passed him, I could, he's like, he never came off the bottom, and he finally did pass me, So, but, that was, you could race like that.
Yeah, you could move around. You wasn't committed to needing to run one particular spot. It's nice when you got a track. I know, I think it was 411 last year. It was late in the season, maybe around Thanksgiving-ish time, and they had a black slick track top to bottom. And man, it seemed like that's all I heard about for the next few weeks was, oh man, it was great. The fans loved it, the drivers loved it. And it's like, I couldn't tell you how to do that. I'm not a track prep guy.
I'm not
but
either.
Man, it seems like people really like it and enjoy it. And obviously it's got to be a little easier on equipment. Not beating them to death. And
definitely a lot easier on equipment. And and again, I think it takes more of, and I'm not going to call it a driver's race. I'm going to call it, it takes a setup.
Yeah,
and
it's more technical in all aspects.
A lot. And I enjoyed that, and that's where we want most of our stuff. You know, so it was good. But racing, I'll take it as long as it's on dirt.
Hey, guys, they're going to search for it. They're going to look for it. They're behind the wheel. They're going to move around and find what they need to find.
The NASCAR guys ain't figured it out yet, but I think one of these days.
I think a couple of them are.
Well, that's NASCAR themselves. They're not going to figure it out, but it's I'm a huge race fan.
Yeah.
But I don't sit and watch the races like that anymore.
No. Even if they're broken up into segments like they are now, it's not my.
I got the answer for them, but obviously they're not going to listen to me.
They don't want to hear it.
but they tried that, and the reason they won't, they need to do it like the local tracks do. Have heat races, and you know what? If you got those guys that Kyle Busch didn't make the race tonight, that's hard on the sponsors. But you know what? That's going to make people watch it, and it's going to make him and his crew work harder.
Right. I've had a theory on NASCAR for a while. I used to love it, grew up watching it and stuff like that, but now it's, man, there's no way. I really feel like NASCAR has a monopoly. They do. I mean, just like Hoosier has a monopoly on tire situation right now. So you can't tell me that those 42, 43 drivers, I guarantee you there's better drivers and other drivers out there that just don't get that opportunity.
Right.
So they're locked in, and hey, if you're one of those, you're locked in. But I mean, there's people out there, and if they spread that out, you take your big high dollar sponsors and you spread that out, and you have more people going for it. I think you'd see better entertainment. You got more competition.
Right. Yeah. But, you would same deal at any of the regular dirt tracks. It's not that often, but like a big race. I mean, for Josh Rice to make the show and not only make the show, but to be racing with those guys. Yeah. Well, then next week at the show, everybody's like, is he going to make the race? Hunt the front guys, when they went to Eldora and they made the show, and that's great entertainment for everybody.
It is.
And it's also for the sponsors. It's even more news if they didn't make the race.
Right.
So they're getting the publicity.
They're getting it either way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's where I think they need to go with that. But, I'm good with the dirt stuff. That's where I've grown up. That's where
I've always thought the dirt was just so much more exciting. It's more entertaining. You don't. I don't know. I mean, I like it. I love it. Yeah. Obviously, here we are.
I did that deal with Jeff Alsop when he was running ARCA stuff, and I was changing tires for him, and we went around Kentucky, went to Charlotte, and Atlanta. We went to a few different racetracks, and and there wasn't no money there. I mean, I think the race at Kentucky paid $18,000 to win. And we went
paid a tire bill for that.
Tire bill was $12,000. You know what I mean? So it's like no, it didn't make no sense. But
and it probably wasn't as much fun either.
No, it wasn't. No, you were only allowed to be in there working on a car. Lights
restricted
out
hours
at 10 o'clock or something, and it was just it wasn't as fun. And you don't get. I ain't gonna say you don't get the help. Them guys will help you, but it's not like it at Florence. You know, I flipped a car at Florence one night, and a mod, and in a heat race, and everybody there that I'm competing with, and I'll never forget this. Pat Kelly, it's got to go Reynolds. Well, I think he sold that now, but anyhow, he was real big into the horse industry, and he's telling me, he's like, he was just amazed by all these guys that you're racing against are here helping you fix it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah,
it's
that's what we do.
Yeah. And, so, yeah, that's the dirt racing, the people that I've met and, developed friendships with. It's just, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's the people that aren't involved, they don't realize how much of a, not just a friendship, but it's like it's a family community.
It is.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's you help out your neighbor, even if he wrecked you last week. You might think twice about it, but you're still going to help the guy, and he's going to help you at the same time. You know, so I'm definitely.
And we were out doing the national deal and traveling around, and it was amazing. You talk about the family and then notoriety of that. The people. Of course, I was battling for the national points deal. It didn't matter if we showed up in Danville, Illinois, or Brownstown, Illinois. Everybody knew you there.
Yeah.
So we did that, and it was the first time I rolled into Kentucky Lake. It was like the people were coming. Hey Billy, how you doing? I'm like, my wife would say, "Who's that?" I don't know. So, but that was it. I mean, like I said, Florence is probably definitely our home track and one of my favorites, but.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite racetrack of all time was Kentucky Speedway.
Okay.
Or Kentucky Lake.
Kentucky Lake, yeah.
Kentucky Lake Speedway, yeah. That place was, it was neat.
Yeah.
First time we ever rolled in there when we won, and they treated us like gold.
Yeah.
And, it was neat. Old Whitewater, I used to love going up there. Ron Liguori told me one night.
RT.
Yeah, he's like, Billy, I think it's one of the first times I was ever at Whitewater, and he says, "You've been pretty good at Florence." He said, "Well, let me tell you about this place." He says, "This place will reach out and get you." I said, "Well, what do I got to do, Ron?" He said, "Just race the racetrack. Don't race nobody else. Just race the racetrack." Right. And we were very successful.
And it worked out.
It worked out well. Yeah, I liked it. It was
good deal.
A neat little place. Of course, Eldor is a nice place, but man, Kentucky Lake was one of my favorites for sure, other than Florence.
Nice. So before we wrap up, we're getting close, time and everything. But who you got to thank for this year? So this is your time. Let's close out on a good note.
First and foremost, Chris Williams. I mean, this is his car. We developed a partnership there with Chris and Kerry Ford. Now, to put a little bit on that, Kerry Nissan sponsored us there for a couple of years, and that was Chris there.
Okay.
Now he's moved on to Kerry Ford.
Gotcha.
And so Kerry Ford's our main sponsor this year. Bill's Carpet, Penny's Tax Time. I got to look here.
Yeah,
the B&B Designs. Yeah, this is kind of new.
The cheat sheet.
Yeah. County Line Liquor and Crittenden sponsors. Of course, Rich Poe, Valvoline's with us again this year. Rich started with us a long time ago, and
great guy.
Can't say enough for what Rich has done.
He helps a lot of people out.
I don't know if Valvoline really understands of what Rich has done for the sport and their name.
Yeah. For
helping the grassroots guys out there.
Yeah.
Battery Man, RBI, Bleed Right. Bleed Right is going with us. Now, that was actually a sponsor I met through Bill Patterson, and he's staying with Bill Patterson. So again, I wouldn't want to take anybody's sponsor there.
Right.
So Bleed Right's going to work with both of us this year. So.
It's always good when you got people that are willing to work with both parties. And hey, I want to help everybody out.
Like I said, Trucker, a Brewer Auto Body. Trucker's been helping me for years, and can't thank him enough. Scott Jones. Scott Jones, a story I got to tell you about Scott Jones. Distinctive Designs is actually his business name now. But Scott Jones was my first sponsor other than my mom and dad. And me and Scott went to school together. And he started his landscaping out with an El Camino and a little trailer. And he bought me like a tire or two my first year, and so he's been with me my whole deal racing.
Right.
And we're just great friends, and it's worked out.
That would be. I would love to see a landscaping company roll up with an old El Camino mulch in the back and lawnmower.
That's
that
right.
would be awesome.
And of course, Joe Lay and Sons is helping us out this year. I think I got them all. PSI, Professional Sealants, Northern Kentucky Equipment, Matt Sand, one of my best buddies, Gene Sand. That's his son. He's been helping me here for years. Battery Man, I think I talked about. Slicker helped us out with the vinyl graphics this year.
Yep.
Can't thank Slicker enough.
Michael helping us out a little too. He's got us our decals and stuff.
Yeah, Slicker, that's the best name for him too.
He's a slicker, all right.
And then, of course, all the guys that helped me, Ricky and Jake, and Jimbo's going to be helping us, Trucker, of course, and my boy Hunter. Hopefully I get him a little bit more. I think he's getting pretty interested in it. I don't think Mama wants him to race, but I don't know. We might have to see how one practice night goes and slide over.
We'll go from there, huh?
So.
Good stuff. Well, Billy, man, I can't thank you enough. Like I said, you've definitely been, for me growing up at the track. I can remember you out there as long as I can. Some of the guys we've talked about in the past. Your Chuck McWilliams and Billy Teagardens and Pat Patricks and stuff like that. Those guys ain't the only guy. I remember the Billy Vaughns and stuff growing up too.
Tell you one I don't hear about so much anymore, but I'm going to kind of make this a little longer. Bobby Carnes.
Bobby Carnes, yeah.
Bobby Carnes helped us with the late model deal, and I asked him one night, I was like, Bobby, why are you helping me? And he says, man, I'm out there racing with you. The straighter I can make you, the safer it is for me.
Safer it is for me.
I was like, and I remember that because that's why I helped a lot of guys with the mods and stuff, and he's 100%
that's why you helped me out to keep me from being all over the place.
It makes it better for all of us. So
well, I appreciate it, absolutely.
Yeah.
So good deal. Well, Billy, thanks again for having us. This is just going to be another great episode as far as I see it. Hope all the fans like it. Keep everybody tuning in. This has been educational, entertaining, I think. I'm sure there's tons of stories that we didn't get to, and probably some of them we can't talk about on camera.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to have a catch up here late in the year or something.
Yeah. Catch a couple of them over a few brewskis or something.
There you go.
Good deal. So, again, thanks everybody for turning in. Slingin Dirt Media. Hope you like this. Make sure you go to the YouTube page, like and subscribe, and tell all your friends about it. And we'll see you at the track.